It's a whole underworld going on in your vagina. Good guys, bad guys, lots of gatekeeping. First, some basic science. You have microorganisms all over your body to protect you. If the bad guys come in, they have to compete for spaces, nutrients, and other resources with the good guys. The vagina is no exception. Remember, the vagina is an opening so that organisms from the outside can work their way into the inside. But the gatekeepers of your normal vaginal flora, they take up the space and the nutrients so the bad guys can't get in and cause harm. Look at my little diagram here. Up here represents the yeast, down here represents the bacteria, and in the middle are the gatekeepers. You see, it's roughly equal amounts bacteria, yeast, and the big old gatekeepers kind of keep things under control. As long as those amounts remain the same, our yeast remains the same as our bacteria, and the gatekeepers remain, we have a very happy vagina. Because remember, as long as everybody has the same amount of space, the same amount of resources, the gatekeepers keep things in balance. No one has an advantage in territory in the underworld that is our vagina. But then this happened. We lost the gatekeeper. And now we have many more yeast than we do bacteria. Now we have a yeast infection. Or this happened. We lost another gatekeeper and we have an overgrowth of bacteria. Many more bacteria than we do yeast. The bacteria now has control of the territory. When the bacteria gets control of the territory and consumes most of the space, you may find yourself with a runny discharge that may have a little odor to it, almost like a little fishy odor. And it actually can be quite uncomfortable in some cases, even causing a little burning. And this here is when the yeast has control of the territory. See, many more yeast than we do bacteria. When they have gained control of the space that we call the vagina, they essentially result in a really thick, clumpy discharge that itches terribly. It even can have a white color or sometimes even a greenish white color. And though I don't have a diagram to show it, sometimes the warring factions come against each other and they both begin to overgrow, and you can have a bacterial vaginosis along with a yeast infection. My goodness, that's a mess. So what can you do? Protect the gatekeepers. Make sure that they're there to keep vigilance over the vagina. We protect the gatekeepers by protecting the pH of the vagina. The vagina normally hangs out at a pH of about 4.5. That's quite acidic, you know? The gatekeepers like that. They tend to do very well with that. But when we do things to change the pH of the vagina, the gatekeepers shrivel on up and they allow space for the territory wars to begin. There are things that you can do to protect the environment and in turn protect our gatekeepers. Number one, keep it cool down there. Bacteria and yeast, like most microorganisms, love to grow in warm, moist environments. So leave the underwear for out of the house. When you're home, go commando. Lots of air to the vagina keeps it cool. The gatekeepers like it cool. Keeping it cool keeps it dry. Have you ever baked bread before? Have you noticed that when you want the yeast to bloom, you put it in warm, sugary water and you stick it away for it to grow? The other thing that can protect the pH for the gatekeepers is avoiding the perfuming dyes and soaps that make you smell good, but it knocks off the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers, they're kind of soft, they're kind. They can't take all those harsh chemicals. That includes the soaps you use to clean your body and the detergents you use to wash your clothes. Also consider medical conditions like diabetes or diets that are very high in sugar. Listen, if you're taking a lot of sugar in or you have a high concentration of sugar in your urine, remember my yeast before? It loves to grow in sugary water. Now don't get frustrated. Sometimes you may find that the gang wars keep happening for you. Over and over again, either the yeast is in control or the bacteria is in control. There are a number of antibiotic or antifungal preparations that we can use. Sometimes you may say, hey doc, I've been treated with those things. The wars are still happening. In cases of BV, approximately 30% of cases of bacterial vaginosis are resistant to metronidazole or flagyl. So if you're getting repeatedly treated with that, it's time to try something else, usually something called clindamycin. And then there are the times when the yeast has become resistant to the typical medicine that we use for yeast infections, diflucan or fluconazole. When that happened, there are at least a couple of strains of Candida that. So with those, we use a different type of medicine called butaconazole. And then when you treat it over and over and over again, one of the things to consider is taking a probiotic so that you can increase the number of gatekeepers in your vagina. And sometimes your gatekeepers needed a little help. They need a little extra ammunition to kind of keep these jokers under control. And that's often in the form of boric acid suppositories. Now be careful. Don't use the boric acid suppositories all the time or too often. But sometimes the gatekeepers could use a little extra helping hand. So give the gatekeepers a chance. Protect the pH. Make sure the underworld stays safe under there.